There are moments in history when a single voice dares to rise above centuries of secrecy. A voice that doesn't come from universities, laboratories, or government institutions, but from the oral traditions of ancient peoples whose knowledge was never meant to be written down. That voice belonged to Credo Mutwa. Born in 1921 in South Africa, his name means the one who awakens the people. But he was not a professor, nor a scientist recognized by Western systems. He was something far older and far more feared. A Sangoma, a shaman, a keeper of sacred memory.
In Africa, knowledge was never stored in books. It lived inside human beings. It was passed from elder to child, from healer to initiate, guarded through rituals, visions, and symbolic languages that outsiders were never meant to decode.
From childhood, Mutwa was initiated into this lineage. His grandfather, himself a master healer, taught him not only about herbs, spirits, and ceremonies, but about something far more dangerous: the gods who did not come from Earth. For generations, these stories were whispered only among initiates. They were considered too destabilizing for the unprepared mind. But Mutwa believed humanity had reached a breaking point. He chose to shatter the vow of silence and reveal what his ancestors had preserved in secrecy. What he described would challenge everything we think we know about who we are and why we suffer. The Chitauri, the sky beings who broke humanity. According to Mutwa, long before written history, the world was different. Humanity was not divided into male and female. We were whole beings, energetically complete, unified in mind, body, and spirit. There was no spoken language. Humans communicated through direct thought transmission, images, sensations, intuitive knowing. There was no deception because nothing could be hidden. There was no conflict because separation did not exist. Then they came. The Chitauri, reptilian entities who descended from the sky in vessels of fire and thunder. They were not gods. They were visitors with technology far beyond human comprehension. And they didn't come to help. They came to alter us. The elders taught that the Chitauri genetically modified humanity. They divided the original human into two sexes, introducing dependency, longing, fear of loss, and the illusion of incompleteness. With separation came hierarchy. With hierarchy came control. They replaced telepathic communion with spoken language, not as a gift, but as a weapon. Words fragmented meaning, symbols replaced direct knowing. Misunderstandings became inevitable. Truth was now something that could be manipulated. And then came labor. Humans were forced into mines to extract minerals for the visitors, a haunting echo of the ancient Sumerian Anunnaki stories that describe gods creating humans to serve as workers. Suddenly, the Bible's Tower of Babel reads differently. What if the division of languages was not divine punishment, but technological sabotage? Mutwa said the Chitauri taught humans to kneel, to worship, to obey invisible authorities. They installed kings, priesthoods, religious systems, not to elevate consciousness, but to sever it from its source. And then something even darker emerged. These beings fed not just on flesh, but on emotion. Fear, grief, rage, despair. They consumed the psychic energy generated when human minds vibrated at low frequencies, similar to the Gnostic Archons, similar to Monroe's concept of loosh, emotional energy harvested as nourishment. The Chitauri did not leave. They simply changed their masks. The Dogon, Sirius, and the impossible knowledge. Thousands of kilometers north of Mutwa's homeland, in the cliffs of Mali, lives the Dogon tribe, guardians of a knowledge system that has baffled scientists for decades. Long before modern telescopes, the Dogon spoke of Sirius B, a white dwarf star invisible to the naked eye. They described its density, its orbit, its gravitational pull. How could a remote tribe with no modern instruments know this? Their answer was simple. Their teachers came from the sky. Amphibious beings, described as part human, part fish, who descended in a spinning arc of light. They emerged from water, shimmering, bearing the blueprints of astronomy, medicine, agriculture, and spiritual law. The Dogon called them the Nomo, beings from Sirius who came to seed knowledge. And suddenly, Mutwa's Chitauri did not stand alone. The Hopi spoke of the Kachinas, star teachers who warned of planetary cycles. The Sumerians spoke of the Anunnaki, creators of laboring humanity. The Bible spoke of fallen watchers who descended to earth. The Gnostics warned of Archons feeding on human ignorance. Cultures separated by oceans, yet telling fragments of the same forbidden story. What if humanity was not born broken, but was engineered into fragmentation? What if the gods of ancient texts were not metaphors, but visitors? And what if the true war was never fought with swords, but with consciousness itself? In the next part, we will explore how these ancient bloodlines never disappeared, how they reshaped themselves into royal dynasties, financial systems, mass media, and the digital architecture that now governs human attention. Because the Chitauri no longer need ships. They have screens. The bloodlines that never left. If the ancient visitors truly withdrew from the physical stage of history, why does the structure of power still look eerily the same across millennia? Empires rise and fall, flags change, religions mutate, yet control always concentrates into the hands of a few families, a few dynasties, a few bloodlines that seem immune to collapse. This is where the modern interpretation of Mutwa's warnings intersects with the controversial work of researchers like David Icke. The claim is not simply that elites are corrupt, that is obvious. The claim is that power has been genetically and energetically inherited through carefully preserved lineages. The myth of blue blood is not metaphorical in this worldview. For centuries, royal houses of Europe intermarried obsessively, guarding their bloodlines from contamination. They claimed divine right to rule, not through merit, but through descent. Why would power structures cling so fiercely to genetic purity? Because if the Chitauri never left, but instead hybridized, then humanity is not ruled by strangers. It is ruled by relatives. These lineages, the theory goes, became the hidden spine of empires, behind monarchies, behind banking dynasties, behind corporate conglomerates and political institutions. They no longer rule openly as gods. They rule through systems. Wars that never end. Economic crises that repeat with mechanical precision. Cultural movements that polarize entire populations into opposing tribes. Division is not a failure of the system. Division is the system. From temples to timelines, the new control grid. In ancient times, control was enforced through priesthoods and temples. In the 20th century, it was refined through radio, television, and cinema. But the true masterpiece of manipulation arrived with the internet, and especially with social media. For the first time in history, the prison no longer needs guards. We carry it willingly in our pockets. Every scroll, every click, every emotional reaction becomes data. Algorithms don't simply observe us, they sculpt us. They feed us outrage when we are calm, fear when we are grounded, validation when we are weak. They fragment attention. They amplify polarity. They reward outrage over truth. And as humanity becomes addicted to external stimulation, something subtle disappears. Silence. Without silence, there is no reflection. Without reflection, there is no sovereignty. We stop responding from essence and begin reacting from programming. We become predictable, harvestable. The Chitauri no longer need to abduct bodies. They harvest states of consciousness. The war is not for land or oil. It is for attention. And attention is the gateway to the soul. Reunification, the quiet revolution. But the ancient guardians never left us defenseless. Mutwa insisted that the greatest rebellion is not rage. It is reunification. When body, mind, emotion, and spirit operate in coherence, the control grid collapses. It cannot feed on wholeness. It only feeds on fragmentation. The path is deceptively simple. Disconnect, not from technology, but from unconscious consumption. Choose silence over noise, presence over reaction. Breathe deeply, not mechanically, but reverently. Breath is the bridge between matter and spirit. Yogis knew this for millennia. Eat consciously, not only food, but information. Ask, does this nourish or numb me? Move the body. Walk, stretch, dance. Stagnation in the body creates stagnation in the mind. Meditate not to escape the world, but to remember who is watching it. Go into nature. Trees do not manipulate. Water does not deceive. Earth does not fragment. And most importantly, observe yourself. Ask again and again, am I acting from fear or from truth? From conditioning or from essence? This is how sovereignty is reclaimed, not through revolutions, but through remembrance. The war was never outside. It was always for the forgotten kingdom within you. And when you return to that center, no algorithm, no dynasty, no invisible empire can touch what you truly are. Because consciousness, once awakened, cannot be enslaved again.